Hi, I'm Brian Russell, and I want to review with you Hebrew syllables and Hebrew vowels as a way to get a handle on being able to read out of the Hebrew scriptures. There's essentially two types of syllables that you'll have in Hebrew. There's open and there's closed. An open syllable begins with a consonant and then has a vowel in it. So consonant and a vowel. There is one open syllable that only has a vowel, but the only example of it is when you have the conjunction, the sharuk, the long U at the beginning of a word. This will be the only time that you'll have a vowel that's by itself without a consonant in front of it. Otherwise, you have essentially two types of syllables. The open, the consonant vowel, and the closed, which is the consonant vowel consonant. But this is only part of what we have to understand to be able to understand how the vowels work. But this is a critical piece. You want to see if you have an open syllable and then if you have a closed syllable. Then the next key piece is we have to discern where in relationship to the stress this syllable exists. So you can have an open stressed syllable, you can have a closed stressed syllable, or an open non-stressed, or a closed non-stressed. Or we can say accented or unaccented. Now, this is critical to understand how the vowels work, because the Hebrew has essentially two kinds of vowels. There's pure long vowels, and some examples of the pure long vowels are going to be the vowels that typically use what are called the matres lectionae, or the mothers of reading. These are vowels that are written with help of a consonant. We saw one here. This is the sharuk. That's the pure long U, and we distinguish the pure long vowels from other vowels by the caret shape on top of them. So the most common of the pure long vowels would be, and I'll use a bait to illustrate this. The bait with a and then the hirik yod vowel. That's your pure long I. Again, we'll use a bait. The sagol yod vowel, which is a pure long E. Another form of that would be sere yod, which is another pure long E. Then we also have use a bait, put a holem vav there. The holem with the vav, that's a pure long O. And then we did mention the sharuk with the dagesh in there. That's the pure long U. And what I like to say about pure long vowels is this: heaven and earth will pass away. The pure long vowels are here to stay. And so in our parsing exercises, these aren't going to change in relationship to where the accent is, because that's the key thing for understanding short vowels. So these can happen in open or in closed syllables, though we'll see later, there's some specific rules where you'll see certain one of these, but these can happen typically in closed or open syllables, and they're going to be the same. They're going to be pure long, thus we have that caret over them. The other vowels are the short vowels, and it's important to think of the short vowels not as we do in English, but see them in relationship to where they show up in a particular kind of syllable. Because in the short vowels, we have what we'll call long, short, and reduced. And we'll do this by vowel type. So if we look at A-class vowels, the long A is, which would look like that, is a patach, or kamatz, the kamatz. The short A vowel, which you just write as an A, is the patach. That's the little horizontal line. And then a reduced vowel is going to be the shava, or in the case of gutturals, you'll have the compound shava. So in this case, this is a patach compound shava. So you'll have A-class vowel. And then we can have I-class. So again, our lengthened I-class vowel is the sere. We can also have a heroic, which is just an I-class vowel, which is a short I, or we can have the Segol, which is a short E, and then again, just see in common, we have the Shava, or we can have the compound Shava. Then we have U-class vowels, which is a holum, which is a long O, and then you get the kibbutz, which can sometimes be a long U, but the kibbutz can also just be a short U, and then our O, short O sound this is called a chamat chatuf, and you'll know from context, but this is an O. But notice that these two, at least the forms of them, look the same, but they're going to be found in distinct places. So this is just basic vowel material. And again, we'll have a shava over here, or we can have the compound shva. So what do we do with these things? Well, let me show some illustrations. But first of all, the only place you're going to have the lengthened vowels here, and notice we want to think lengthen. This is the baseline here, the short vowels. Long vowels only happen in two places. These happen in accented syllables. So your long vowels are accented syllables, or an open syllable that's one syllable in front of the accented syllable. So we would call that a near open syllable. So what does that look like? Let's think of a vocabulary word where we're going to see this a lot. We're going to use this for our illustration, dabar. Looks like this. Now we have two syllables here, and this is a long A, and this is a long A. Why is that? It's because an accent is here, and you'll be able to always note the accent as one of the Masoretic accent marks will mark that. And this syllable here would be is a closed syllable, but it's accented. So in an accented syllable, we're going to get a long vowel, and also in an open syllable, that's one syllable in front of it. Sometimes people call it near open or pre-tonic or the pre-stressed syllable. As long as it's an open syllable, you're going to get a lengthened vowel. Okay, so far so good. Now, short vowels, that would be the patak, the hirik, the segol, the kamat chatuf, the kibbutz when it's a short U. These only happen, and this is important, closed syllables that are non-stressed, or in other words, non-accented closed syllables or unaccented closed syllables only. Okay, so the short vowels unaccented or unstressed and closed. So let's take our word davar. And say it's now in construct or bound state. A word in bound state doesn't have an accent, isn't accented. There's no stressed syllable. So what that means is the syllables that are here are all going to be unaccented. And so we would have still have an open syllable and a closed syllable. And so what's a vowel in an unaccented closed syllable? We know in the lexical form that it has an A vowel. It was davar. So in this case, when it's in the bound form, it's still going to have an A-class vowel, but because we have an accented closed syllable, we have the short vowel. Now, this also lets us illustrate where do we get these reduced vowels. Vowels reduce only in open syllables that are at least two syllables away from the stress, or an open syllable in a bound or construct noun. So we're going to get reduced syllables reduced in open syllables in bound construct forms or two syllables from the stressed syllable. So let's go back to devar. It's the lexical form, again, it was devar, and we had two long A's because, again, the accent was here, so we had a closed accent syllable, so we get a long vowel. And here we had a near open or pre-tonic or pre-stressed open syllable, so we get a long vowel. Now, when the var becomes in the bound state, or we put it in a construct, there's going to be reductions because now there's no stress on the word at all. So the two syllables are now unaccented closed, so we get a short vowel. And now we have a open syllable that's either on a bound word or it's two syllables from the stress. And so what do we get here? Instead of having the A sound, we get the reduced vowel. We get the shava. So you'll see this in a couple of places, and let me put some more words up here. Let me illustrate this one other place, and we'll show this would be the construct. Let's also put devar now into its plural form, and this will be the last example I'll show in this video. Let's talk this through. So we have devar when it's singular. Spell this correctly. Now let's put a plural ending on it. Let's put the masculine plural ending on it, which is eem. So now we're going to have dalet, bait, resh, eem. We know we have a hirik here. This is going to be a pure long vowel, so it doesn't matter, but the accent's going to fall back to this syllable. Okay, so notice what this does to the word then. Again, when we do syllables, and there'll be another video on syllabification, it's usually best to start at the end and work backwards. So we have a closed syllable, and then we're going to have, this is an open syllable now, and we're going to have two open syllables in a row. And what happens here is, since these are both, we're going to have a stressed syllable here. So we would have expected an A-class vowel. This still stays a long A. Why? Because it's in this, it's a lengthened vowel. It's in this pre-tonic, pre-stress, one syllable from the stress, so it's going to stay a long A. But now notice what happens to the front end of this. This is now two syllables from the stress, and it's an open syllable. So this is one of these places where we're going to get the reduced vowel, and so it's going to look like this. We'll have the shava there. So devarim, devar becomes devarim, and again, you can follow the vowels. This is just one example, but you want to look at, again, the key thing to understanding how the vowels are working is recognize that pure long vowels stay the same regardless of where the accent is. But for our short vowels, which I mean long, short, and reduced, they're completely dependent on the type of syllable that they're found in and where the stress or accent is on the word. Again, remember, bound or construct words don't have a stress, so all the syllables in a bound or construct word are going to act as though they're in unaccented closed syllables or an open syllable two or more away from the stress. And then you can work these pieces out. So I would invite you to go ahead and look at some of the nouns that you're working with in a verse and see if you can figure out why the vowels are doing what they are. You're going to want to know what the word is in its lexical form, and then you can see how the vowels function in different types of scenarios when we begin to put the endings on to make them bound or plural, and when we add definite articles, or when we make them and put them in construct chains. Again, this little primer on vowels in syllables, so you see how they work. Once you get to these short vowels, the short vowels, again, dependent on the type of syllable and where the accent mark is. That's the key piece. If you learn that, learn these basic charts, you can work through words. Again, this is the first of several videos I'm going to be making. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm Brian Russell.